Oh, good morning. I'm all flummoxed this morning. As usual, it is computers and banks and energy companies, none of whom play the game and then try to look as if they're whiter than white. Well, they're not. They do nothing for our society. I'll tell you, when I take over, all banks are going to be closed. Can you imagine that? But I'll tell you, they'll be reformed. Oh boy, would they be reformed? They are dynamite. They are toxic. They really upset our society. No, they don't. They upset me. Never mind. And now the energy companies have joined, and not the big ones either. Some of those that purport to be customer friendly. No, to hell with you. Well, that's what kept me this morning anyway, because I was turning into total confusion because both the bank and the energy company did things that I was totally unexpecting. That their own website said would happen tomorrow, tomorrow, Friday, and as a consequence, we're all of a tizzy. But never mind. In a little while, hopefully, good friend Andrew Sloan will join us, and he's always good value, always very good value. So in the meantime, let us start to look at the morning papers. But let me tell you this, some good news. It's going to reach 11 degrees today, much warmer than the 5 and the 6 that we've been having. It's going to start at 1. This morning, right now, it's a little cool, but it's going to grow to 11 degrees, which is almost balmy for this time of the year. The only thing is that this morning there may be a risk of rain. Only a risk. It's not sure. But if you're going out mid morning, I just check and make sure you've either got a raincoat or a brolly with you. The breeze is light. You can probably see my sturdy trees behind me, and they let me know what's going on. And we also are going to have light cloud cover. That you can't see quite as easily, I think, but it is grey, but it's quite thin. So it's not too bad. Not too bad a day. Just watch out for a sprinkle of rain later on, possibly. All right, let's take a look because I'm getting increasingly unhappy about the fact that we seem obsessed as a nation with two things. One is sex, and the other is Christmas cake. I don't mind about the sex. That's okay. I can go along with that. But the Christmas cake is just wearing a little bit thin. The icing is beginning to crack. I really don't know. Either fire Boris or let him get on with the job. And getting on with the job is important that somebody does it at the moment, because the real thing we should be concentrating on, which the nation does not seem to be, and that is what's happening on the Russian-Ukraine border. Boris. Oh dear. You have stirred up a lot of passion, but it just shows how inward-looking we are. We are becoming as a nation. And I've got my own theory as to why, but it's patently obvious. We've got a layer of senior management that isn't worth its kettle, metal, bottle, whatever we say, candle. It isn't worth its candle. Sometimes I need a little bit of time to find the right word now because I'm over 35. It's not worth its candle. And it doesn't matter which way you turn. But particularly since about the middle of the second part of the last decade, about 2015, is when it seems to have collapsed. It had collapsed well before Brexit, and certainly well before the pandemic. So we can't blame it on that. It's just a very poor generation of managers, and perhaps it's because we had poor education before that. I have no idea, or perhaps it's because we got so fat and sassy we don't know how to handle crises anymore, or could it be that we've got, everybody's talking about how arrogant this government is? Is it that actually the elitists are the group of managers that are looking after the important things like banks and financial institutions and local governance, or governance in Westminster for that matter? Have we just got a whole range of people who aren't up to the job. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just asking the question. They don't care. They get their check. Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. Indeed. All right. So I'm ranting. The Times. Shops and trains stick to masks as Plan B ends. Well, indeed, today is a signal day. It's when we don't have to wear masks anymore. Although the public transport and some shops, some stores are saying, please, we want you to do that. It's not the law. I suppose that they can ask. I suppose they could ask you to leave. After all, it's their premises. But generally speaking, there is nothing forcing us there. We're not going to be bludgeoned by coppers with batons or be kicked by marshals with high-vis jackets on or whatever. It is funny, isn't it? I saw a bloke walking down the street. It was quite early in the morning, and he was wearing a high-vis jacket. And I tried hard to see why he was. And it's become a status symbol amongst the sort of the workers. If they can wear a high-vis jacket, it means that they are somebody or something. So people are starting to wear high-vis jackets just as a status symbol. No, thank you very much. Not for me. But it is one of those strange things that's happening in our society. Oh, God bless us. God bless us. God bless us. God bless us. Right. So the Sun. Now here we go with sex. Andrew, I'll go to trial. No sweat. So Prince Andrew has said, right, okay, yeah, they've been hounding me. I've pulled every trick in the book as a royal not to get into court. I've had my titles stripped. I'm almost now playing Mr. Andrew. Call me Mr. Andrew, and I'll go into court because I'll fight this to the death. And in that sense, good for him. But as a nation, why are we so obsessed with Andrew and his sexual romps? Some people will say, but it's quite dreadful that he should have slept with an underage girl. But it was a long time ago, and mores were somewhat different in that time. And we most certainly do have a generation that can't wait to say how bad we all were 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 200, 300 years ago. They are so morally pure. Oh, yes. These are the people that are wrecking the language, wrecking our architecture, wrecking our universities. Oh, yes, they're so moral. Idiots. Oh, so sorry, I didn't say that. No. So anyway, that's the Mirror. The Eye. Publish and be damned. The PM waiting on his fate. And that talks about the fact that Sue Gray has still to deliver her formal inquiry into the cake. Oh dear, the cake. Is this? I'm sure that this will go down in the history books as the cake drama. The Daily Express. Andrew shock. I want jury trial. I'm a bit surprised at the Express, even though it has ceased to be one of the top newspapers. It has supported the government. I'll give it that. It has had a sort of a bias, if you like, but it has on its front pages addressed issues of some importance to the nation. So I'm a bit shocked that it's decided to go the sex route this morning with Andrew. Right? Is it that important that he wants a jury trial? I don't know. Certainly, there's plenty of gossip. Look at those royals. Look at Andrew. But that's gossip. And those people who'd like to indulge in it, I'm sure, are having a field day. Frankly, gossip is destructive. And those people that peddle it are destructive, more destructive than the destructiveness itself, if you understand what I mean. You know what I mean, Sydney, or whatever. The Star. The Star. I'm really quite upset with the Star because it really had some great leader writers. Its front pages were a joy to look at, and generally speaking, it shows something that other papers weren't following up. And no more. They're not terribly clever. It goes. Here lies the Prime Minister's credibility, and he lies and lies and lies and lies. I think there's a song, isn't there? And lies and lies and lies and lies and lies and lies. Well, I mean, if that's all they can come up with, they're not worth their money anymore. Send them back to the sun. That's what I do. Daily Telegraph. National insurance rise will push up prices, the Prime Minister has warned. Well, he's absolutely right. And that's one other thing that we've taken our eye off is inflation and price rises. And in fact, in a minute, I will say why this war and this watching it carefully is so important. So the Daily Telegraph, a national insurance rise will push up prices. The Prime Minister is warning. He's absolutely right. And at least the Daily Telegraph has got some sense into passing on the news. The Independent, Johnson accused of lying over Afghan pet lift. I mean, how far are we going to go? This shows the state of Britain's press. There have been several stories about how a haven run by a Brit for pets or stray animals in Afghanistan were given some precedence in getting onto a plane and coming back. And now it appears that somebody said to Boris, did you authorize this? And he said, no, probably just in passing. And now he's accused of lying because apparently he did know about it. But, you know, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter whether you like Boris, you don't like Boris or whatever. Try to put him into the same sort of situation that you would find yourself. If you've got 20 or 30 things that you're doing in a day and somebody says something to you, you just pass it off, yeah. Are you likely to remember? No, you're not. And this is where the witch hunters started to come in. Personally, I would take the bloody cake away from Number 10 and ram it over some of these editors' heads, and particularly the Independent this morning. Nonsense, rubbish. It's a rubbish newspaper anyway. Oh, I shouldn't say things like that, should I? No. But the Metro, Andrew, it's trial by jury. That's the London paper. It goes with the sex thing, right? The Financial Times, the European Central Bank has warned lenders with significant Russian exposure to ready themselves for the imposition of international sanctions against Moscow if it invades Ukraine, and that's going to actually create havoc in international markets. And the central banks may well have to intervene. That's why they're there, to try and steady the ship when it starts to list. And it looks as if the ship is starting to list. Because one of the things that we should be looking at, let's see, that's the Daily Mirror from 2 days ago. Don't want that. Primarily, the thing that hasn't been reported widely is that the Americans and the Germans have said to Mr. Putin, you put your foot over that border and we're going to actually stop a project of a gas pipeline coming through the Ukraine and down to Germany. It will be nixed. It will be stopped. And that will put the cat amongst the pigeons for you because you rely upon that income. Okay, not a bad way of, instead of shaking a fistful of rockets at the enemy, it's not a bad way to try and avoid new war. But the unfortunate thing of that goes on is that what that means is it will add to a present energy crisis more heavyweight stuff. Suddenly, a new line of gas, a supply of gas, will be nixed, stopped. And that means that who's going to pay the price? Well, it's going to be you and I, and these wretched power companies. I really, I get so angry about these things. You can tell, can't you? But I do. Inside, I'm seething. That everybody plays fast and loose with our emotions and what's important and what's not important. Well, I think that it doesn't matter whether you're old, young, or in between. If you are cold, you are cold. And if you're hungry, you're hungry. And these are the issues that need to be looked at. Apart from which is we've done sweet bugger all about mental health. We've done sweet bugger all about the homeless. We're still using old methods which should have been outdated long, long ago. while the NHS tampers with how doctors treat us and so on, and what a disaster that's turned out to be. Oh my God! Life is very messy at the moment, and the fact that we're worried about whether one of the royal princes was bonking some lady when he shouldn't have been a few years ago, or whether we are worried about whether Boris had a birthday cake or a Christmas cake a few months ago, we are almost at war, and it's going to mean a great deal of a problem for us as individuals, but it's also going to mean a great deal of a problem for the small businessman. And guess who has just joined me? Aha! Aha! There we go. There he is. Good morning, Mr. Andrew.
Good morning. You all right, Keith?
Well, I'm in full flow this morning.
That's good.
Yes, I always like to wake up and I look at my iPad and I look at my phone and I look at all the news sites and so on and so forth. Then I look at my own sites to see who's upset me. So this morning, it's the bank has upset me, and secondly, the power companies have upset me. So I'm loaded with bear. I've been on twice to do some editorials, yelling and screaming and stamping my little feet. And at the moment, what I'm saying is, why aren't we paying attention to the energy problems that are likely to come from war if, in fact, we go to war with or Russia steps over the line into Ukraine? And instead, what we're doing is we're looking at sex, which is always good for newspapers, I suppose. Sex. Prince Andrew has decided to stand trial. And secondly, is this bloody cake that is supposed to have gone to number 10. I'm getting fed up with the icing. I just think there are far more interesting and important things for us to address. So I'm having a real go this morning. I'm going to let you have a go in a moment. But first of all, I'm just going to play something that might amuse you. Well, I hope it does.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
Right, Mr. Andrew. Right. I've already told people this morning, and I told them last night too, about Grizzlies, a wonderful, wonderful shop. I said I stopped by, I think it was the day before yesterday, greeted with a wonderful latte laced with Jack Daniels. Now, if there's anything that's unusual about your shop, is that customers are offered a drink. And secondly, it's unusual because you're unusual. You have a very different type of thinking to the ordinary barber. So let me start off by asking you, if we actually get another crisis with gas cut off from Russia, as a small businessman, how does that bother you?
Well, it's the impact straight away, because as soon as people start sort of tightening their belts and stuff, it's not just obviously me, but it's people who are coming in, isn't it? They decide whether to, if they need a haircut, or if they want a haircut, or if they suddenly feel that it might be indulgent to have a haircut. So, that's less footfall through the door. Once again, say with COVID, isn't it? People are fearful going out or going to public places. If people think, well, actually, that sort of £15, £17, I couldn't really justify because I need to buy food or other things, and obviously that's less footfall for us, which means no money for us, which means we can't pay the bills. So it's just everyone's connected. It's a domino effect, isn't it? That's the problem with all this. We're all connected. So one's own decisions affects another business, another local business in those terms,
Right. Well, it doesn't mean that you'll downgrade your Jack Daniels to a cheaper whiskey.
We'll see. Because if it's a choice of obviously heating the shop, or I'm sure customers would rather not sat there cold. and go without a Jack Daniels in their coffee, you know. But we'll have to think of other ways. It's not. I don't think they come just for that. So, but it's mad, isn't it? Like, you know, the cost of everyday items. It's not just so-called what we're considered what's a luxury, what's not, but it's affecting ordinary people, isn't it? Everyday decisions. Butter, bread. Do you have jam on your toast, or do you not, because you can't quite afford that? Even, you know, it's hitting the supermarket basics range, the essentials range. There's a brilliant person called Jack Monroe who was a single parent a few years ago, and he used to do blogs about, and still does, books and stuff, and fascinated about how to feed the family on, you know, through benefits. You can feed a family of three on £10 a week, you know, clever ways of doing meals and things. But was talking the other day on the news about how things have gone up sort of 300%, you know, which I've been sort of saying for a few weeks now, that 20p here, 30p there on certain basic everyday items, you know. It's affecting the poorest, or the you know, us normals, not just basics range, or it's ordinary people, you would say, who sometimes would buy certain other things as well, but it's affected, or branded, some people buy branded, that's going up as well. So it's affecting everybody, you know. It's not just, apart from obviously the rich, because I noticed, you know, hummus in Waitrose is still £1.39, but it's 90p in Asda. You just have to be a bit more clever, I think. We're all going to have to be a bit more savvy.
Tell me this, one of the things I've been ranting about this morning is that while, I mean, yes, the cost of living is very important, but the possibility of war and the things that are likely to affect us because of that conflict, if it becomes a conflict, you really are in a privileged position, because you talk to perhaps 15, 20, 30 people a day, and you get some feel for what's bothering people. How bothered are they about Prince Andrew's little dallies of a few years ago, and now he says he'll go to court? Does that really intrigue your customers?
No, it's almost like you know, the news is priority. I mean, I try not to watch the news, but we have it on, obviously, you know, we sort of hear it every hour, sort of thing. But it's the Prince Andrew thing, or like the cake and the birthday thing. It's almost like this is what we entrust, you know, our government and MPs, and to, you know, have a not moral high ground, but, you know, sense of decency. So why are we bothering with chasing? I mean, it's obviously, it's interesting. We all need to know about it, obviously, but the priorities are, I think, that are affecting everyday folk, that people are talking about and are worried about, is 100% is the cost of living at the moment. It's everyday items. It was just energy, and we all thought, right, well, we could energy switch, or we could get a cheaper tariff, or we could fix. That was the first sort of worry, and now it really is a bit of a worry. And now it's everyday items that's filtered into that basic, you know, things got up 40p, so people shopping going up maybe a tenner. And then there's other questions. Actually, can I afford this? With the holiday things as well, that we all need a break, but we haven't been away. Can we afford this? And then staycations being an absolute fortune, because we don't want to do the tests or the worry about going away. But staycations being so much more expensive, because obviously people are trying to claw back. So that seems to be, you know, the priority of the COVID thing. Everyone's done. Everyone's just done with it, really. It's been Groundhog Day for a long time. People just want to. And what was interesting was last week, when it was really nice weather, wasn't it? It was cold, but it was really sunny every day. The difference in everybody's, everyone was feeling great. You know, it made everyone feel so much more happy last week when it was sunny. And everyone keeps saying, actually, that we've just got to get through to, like, the clock's going forward in spring. We've just got to get through this bit, got to get through this bit. We're all looking we just want to get through this awful time. It's all very doom and gloom, and it's like it's a constant nag that we don't actually want to turn around and face, because what can we do? What can we do? I was talking to a customer yesterday about this. So on an individual level, as I always say, on a micro level, what can we do? Because change starts at home, doesn't it? But
Well,
what can we do?
actually, you're quite right. And we had this discussion the other day because let me tell you this, that apart from a Jack Daniels, if you go in, whether you need a haircut or not, you'll get some really good conversation by going into Grizzlies. And so we were having a very good debate the other day, and you were asking the same question then. And I said, well, we can always start at the bottom. Little things such as this broadcast, which probably gets to eventually, over a period of a day or so, gets to about 2,000 people. But nonetheless, that's 2,000 people who might not think about this. So we're starting quietly a small revolution. And if people will actually share it on to others, which they do, it may well be that we are, in our own quiet little way, are actually helping an awareness of what's going on that may not otherwise be there.
Yeah.
I always, coming to your shop is really an absolute delight because there are so many benefits apart from getting a haircut.
Well, this is it. It's like all the stuff with the rising cost of stuff. We've been talking about this for a good few weeks actually with customers that people just started to notice it was just the odd product that was slightly going up, and obviously the energy stuff's been going on since for a long time, but really on the hot since October. So people have been talking about this, and when the interviews, like Jack Monroe was on Talk Radio 2 days ago talking about this, and then the following day was on to do a whole big press junket. So many people had heard the interviews or seen it on the news. And like I said to Ollie and work, and so I said, we've been saying this for a few weeks, and we've noticed this gradually, and it's it's a bit of a, it's in that sense that people are becoming aware of it. So which is why it just seems to be, what I'm concerned is what can we do on a micro level. So do we boycott certain supermarkets that are doing this, or what? I don't understand. Or do we, I don't know. But we need to do something because, it just seems to be this, they're all sort of getting away with it and we're all suffering. And how far is it going to go? At what point do
Well, what I find is that the big business has got no conscience whatsoever. In fact, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it wields the big stick. We'll do this, we'll charge you this, and we'll charge you that. But what I'm doing, and I did it this morning because I'm really very upset with my power provider, is cancel the direct debit. I sent in a request for information about 5 days ago and got absolutely no reply. That's not quite true. I got a reply to one thing which only benefited them. They didn't reply to the rest, which I'd asked might benefit me. So I've cut my direct debit. What do you want to bet? The phone will go mad today with them trying to get hold of me. And it's the only way to actually bring them to talk to you. Now, whether in fact that makes any difference, them talking to just one individual, but if hundreds start to do that, but can you imagine the panic in the finance department, who will then be telling the CEO, you better get some of your people to start talking to the customers because they've forgotten how to do it. I actually put the date as 2016 simply because that was the date that American Express changed its CEO. American Express, I've been with for 40 more years, and they used to even greet me whenever I phoned is, you're one of us. You've been with us for 40 years. Now, how can we help? Not anymore. Is the new CEO believes in globalization, which is a financial tool, has been discredited, but no, American Express have got to go with it. So they're going with it, and they're pissing off all sorts of people with their American type approach of harassment and so on. Now, that seems to be creeping into a lot of other industry. So my view is, yes, it is difficult, Andrew, for little guys like us. And both you and I have got a fair mouth on us, but we do have an opportunity to strike back, in as much as if enough people do it, that you actually can get somebody from the company or from the bank or whatever to talk to you. Now, they'll be terribly defensive and they'll tell you, how wonderful they are and but nonetheless, you are talking and you've set up some sort of dialogue. That way, perhaps the message will get through, oi, you've got customers and those customers have got problems and those problems need to be addressed by you because we are your loyal customers and have been for a number of years. So that's my view. Am I mad? Don't answer.
No, I don't think so. But I think actually, I think they're just. I think people aren't interested anymore, are they? So what used to be reputation, and I was having this conversation at a car service in Mini, and the young lad was trying to upsell me a service package, and then the guy that actually I've been dealing with for like 11 years when I put my first Mini, we were talking about it, and he sort of said, well, you don't need that package because blah, blah, blah in time, and this, that, and the other. And then, of course, the young lad was like, well, we're just trying to, you interrupted me trying to upsell a product to the gentleman. And Adam, who was the manager, sort of said to the young lad, you're not upsetting one of our loyal customers, are you? And I said, exactly. I said, what you need to realise is, to the young guy, because Adam's, I've been going there, I've had 4 Minis now, and the line of communication, so they've had me for 11 years. So initial good service and a good deal and all this stuff, and looking after me in a sense, is paid off. Whereas you're trying to get the quick, fast buck of upselling an extra product, which would have cost me more money and I actually didn't need it, would have knocked me off. So he was thinking short term, let's get another thing on this, commission, sell this product. And I said, but you've knocked me off. I said, but if you think about the bigger picture, you look after me for a long time, you've got, in a sense, you'll have more money out of me because you'll have me for a longer time. So the customer service thing, that's always the bigger picture, isn't it?
Yes.
It's better to have good customer service, keep them for a long time, rather than the quick buck, as it were. Yes. It's like some people, unfortunately, can't make it into the shop, or they cancel at the last minute, or they don't turn up, which is infuriating because it's obviously, we can't rebook it, especially if it's 10 minutes before, and we'll lose that booking. But on the other side of it, things happen, life happens, we understand. But the booking system sort of sometimes wants me to set up a cancellation fee. So it means I get half the money off if they cancel, which you think in the short term, well, that's fair enough. I can't fill it again, da, da, da. But I think if that happened to me, that would knock me off. So I wouldn't necessarily want to go back. So I try to be understanding to the customers, obviously, if things like that happen. So it doesn't happen very often. So my attitude is I'd rather not try and get half the money off them for that. I'd rather, work with them and be, well, that's okay, because then you've got them then for a longer time, So it's always a bigger picture, I always think. But I think all this, the business model seems to be profits and figures. So if that seems to be the thing at the moment, of course it's going to be, because those people are in those jobs, aren't they? So the people with those if that's the attitude out there at the moment, a short-term thing, rather than my generation and above, is all about customer service and building up a reputation and a brand, Whereas now I think it's the profits, the figures, what can be shown quickly on data, on a spreadsheet. I do have a client that's sort of, I shouldn't really talk about it really, but it's all to do with data and certain shops and things. And we were having that conversation yesterday, and he did reveal data things to me, profits. And I nearly lost my rag. I couldn't believe it. I was trying to justify, trying to say that this is how it's hitting everybody, normal people, on a daily basis. That attitude is wrong. And there's people using food banks, and it's not just people on benefit or people who are hard up on benefit. It's normal people doing normal jobs, or 3 jobs at once, who are having to. I mean, I did sort of think yesterday, not that obviously my husband's a midwife in the NHS, so he's got at the moment a stable income, even though he's worked to the bone at the moment, But I think, do I sort of need to start using food banks really, at some point? Because if they stop doing certain ranges, I've got to buy a finest squash. Do you know what I mean, or something? It's ridiculous, really, isn't it? So I think, like you were saying, it's hit them where it hurts, which is money and data, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is that? I mean, I don't know things, I just think, it's just instinct and thought and conversation. But if that's how it hits them, we have to come up with a plan of how we hit the data. So then that's what they'll see. They'll see.
Oh, yes.
Because the thing for empty shelves as well, why are certain shelves empty? It's distribution. Still, really? I mean, I'll put me in about, I'll go over and get it. So, or is it we're only going to push this product? So we're not going to push basics butter. We're going to push Anchor butter because it's in the UK, it's more profitable. So cheap goods which came about in 2000, when wages froze, Lidl, Primark, we've talked about that before, cheap goods coming on then, so people felt they had more money, but we were buying less quality goods, if you like.
Yeah.
It was disposable. Whereas now, they're sort of phasing those out in a sense, aren't they? Like, actually, do you notice Primark as well are losing their job? Are losing jobs? So are they sort of coming down as well? Is there now the reverse of what they were talking about 2000? So they're getting rid of cheap goods because of climate change and all this. We started climate change in the 80s, getting rid of CFC frees and CFC free products. So the CFCs with the ozone and stuff. So is it part of that? I wonder. So what we need to do on a micro level, obviously, is something's going to affect their profits and their data. So I don't know how we do that. We all have to come up with a plan somehow.
Yes. Well, I mean, you know that I'm through my Trifid program, is I am totally and utterly anti the computer running mankind and running business, instead of business using the computer to be
data.
better. And you put your finger on it from your experience yesterday, is customer retention used to be one of the key factors in marketing. And it obviously isn't anymore. And I think that with all due respect to our universities, which do a good job in many ways, we're turning out a whole host of people with a piece of paper that says that they can do this and they can do that, but they have no experience of life and no experience of what it's like on the ground. And what they do, they go and they rush to the computer.
Yeah, I was just thinking, actually, so they were urging people, so with the lockdown thing, so people stay at home, can spend, be online. So Amazon deliveries, home deliveries, Amazon is like a faceless thing, isn't it? And then supermarkets with the self-service. So maybe there's things like that that are all becoming a little bit collect from Amazon locker, so you don't see a postman, even let alone a delivery, go to the self-service. So actually, customer interaction is becoming void. So actually, customer satisfaction really, did it come fast and did I have to pay for it? So is that the thing? It was easy. I was in the supermarket, I picked up the product, I zapped it on the self-service and I left. I didn't have to deal with anyone, speak to anyone. I did it. I was quick. So that's more profits. They're not paying staff. So I think actually, it's not important to them, is it? Because it's like an Aldi. Aldi, when you apply for Aldi, it's how many you've got to get a certain amount of products in that an hour through the system. So it's not necessarily, hi, Mrs. Miggins, how are you doing? You all right? Yeah. It's literally putting the cabbage through until it's coleslaw, because it's got to be a certain speed. Yeah. So it's pulling away customer service. So actually, I think that sort of sounds part of it, doesn't it? Customer service is not important.
It's very interesting.
Why would it be?
You're revealing things to me that I didn't know, and I'm sure that a lot of our viewers didn't know. And I think it's getting beyond the pale. Our government keeps on talking. I mean, it doesn't matter which side of the house you're talking about, Labour, Conservative, or in between, is, how we are looking after the electorate and so on. So, well, they're not. They're concentrating on all the wrong things, including icing cake at Christmas.
They don't care. Look at the party.
We need to get people into reacting. We need to get service back into the stores. We need to get them, because otherwise we're going to be social pariahs to each other. And when that happens, I don't know whether it is coincidental. I suspect it's not. But the crime rate is rising at an alarming rate. And mostly it's because a lot of these people that are involved in crime, is they're not talking to anybody. So they really don't sincerely think that they're hurting anybody.
Empathy. That's what it is. That's the thing of sociopaths, isn't it? There's no empathy. So if they're turning in, all we are consumers. I'm going really David Icke left-wing mad here, but actually it makes sense if you think about it. If they're turning us into, so not dealing with customers, with staff. All right, Sheila, how you doing? We're literally in, out, whatever. We're all turning. Everyone's in their room. Everyone's stay at home, buy online. People aren't interacting, they're not having conversations, they're not connecting with somebody. So if you're not connecting and you're not understanding and going, it's like the Dominic Cummings thing or the Tory stuff, anything that the news comes out about them, they're just like that. What's your point? Dominic Cummings sat in that garden press conference, right? So they don't care because there's no social, right? We would be mortified, wouldn't we? It's that thing, So is it? I was talking to a school kid in yesterday, and he was saying this about the supply teacher, about them sort of talking, or he started to eat a banana in class, and I was horrified. And the supply teacher then sort of, someone got detention, or someone got sent out, and I said, "You're there to learn," but I said, school is a blip of your life. It's a tiny, tiny bit of time when people are trained to be teachers. They're in student loans. They've done debt, to be a teacher because they want to make a difference. And then it's them eating a banana or kids talking. It's a complete lack of respect for someone who's trying to educate you. And education is one of the most, if not the most important thing in life. And while it's there and while it's free, I said, keep your gob shut, keep your head down, learn what you can, because if you get education, it's how you go through life. So, I found that gobsmacking that they thought that was sort of acceptable, because I said,
we
I
probably
think that's
upset
just
all
the
sorts of
that to
people
a
with our
teacher.
conversation this morning, but why not? Let's upset people.
Well, he said to me,
it's interesting, isn't it, that you mentioned David Icke. Now, one of our colleagues, Liza Page, did a very, very long interview with David Icke. We showed some of it on Mirador a couple of months ago. And I, like most people, have not paid too much attention to David Icke, and I know that he's dismissed by a lot of people. But when you actually start to listen to the interview, some of the things, not all of the things, but some of the things that he says make sense. And yet, we just put, oh, that's David Icke. It doesn't fit with our thinking. So it is. We have got to a point where we're not prepared to listen to anybody else, particularly if we think they're sounding a bit mad.
Now, what's interesting though, Keith, is back in the 80s when that original interview with David Icke was on with Terry Wogan, it was seen as a laughing stock. He was seen mad, and it was embarrassing. But I can remember at the time, so I was at school, but I can remember thinking, it sort of makes a bit of sense, really, what he's saying slightly about compassion of people, all this type of stuff. Not in a hippy-dippy way, just not, And then I had an interview with him and Nicky Campbell on Radio 1 a year or so later. It was fascinating. And I've gone back and listened to some of that stuff. And it's quite interesting, all that, actually. But people it's conspiracy, it's over here, it's just that and the other. But, as we know, history has I'm atheist, but the whole Jesus thing, the same thing, isn't it? Read compassion, help people out, all that type of stuff. There's a thread through history where we've got to, if someone comes through, or people say, Russell Brand's very much of it at the moment, in the sense of we've got to treat people with compassion and empathy. And there's people who are falling by the wayside here, and there's people who are making a lot of money. So we need to catch the people who are falling by the wayside. But unfortunately, as each day goes on now, it's you and me, folks.
Well, of course, the question arises, isn't it? Is once again, a lot of people now sneer at Christianity. What happened to Christianity? Okay, far from perfect, but its preachings aren't so bad in terms of compassion for your fellow man and turn the other cheek and so on. So, well, perhaps a little bit unrealistic, but nonetheless, people don't even know whether to say whether they're Christian anymore. I'm sort of a churchgoer. I was very, very fastidious about it at one time. I'm less so now, but perhaps I'm going with the flow, and I shouldn't. Actually, you're making me now think. I got into a bit of a huff with the church and stopped going. Perhaps I should go back, because if you walk away from an issue, you can't change it. You can't have a say.
Exactly. It's the thing, isn't it, of obviously what churches or religion gives people is not just say necessarily the religious preaching, which gets the bad flack of it, but it's also isn't that certain churches or certain people within its opinions? Because how is it you can have two Christians or two Muslims or whatever who are completely what you call religious, follow the same things, but have completely different opinions on things, so it's interpretation, isn't it, and stuff. But the bottom line of all this, of Christianity or religion, or because I'm obviously, like I said, I'm atheist, I'm not religious at all, but there's a community thing, there's a sense of belonging, a tribal thing, but also the sense of trying to do good all the time, isn't it? I'm questioning myself, actually. I'm going to try and live morally. I'm trying to do the good thing, which is what I always try and do. You try and help people out when you can, or be nice, or give them time of day, because it's just a nice thing to do. But it's stop watching the news, as Morrissey says. But it is interesting. I don't think it's a big plan, where people just think, oh, it's just one of these conspiracy theories. No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what I'm seeing is the cracks of everyday life, it's all falling apart slightly.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on, everyone, let's just wait, open up a little bit,
Yeah, and also our administration. Whether you're talking about the civil service or politicians or industry or whatever, is they're going to have to start to look at the rules which they've set, which when everybody was fat and sassy lived by. And now that times are tough, we expect a bit of compassion from them. Andrew, it's 8:49, and I know that you have to rush away. And I just want to ask you one more question, but let us take a breather for just a minute and remind ourselves of some of the beautiful things around us. Now, let me tell you one of the benefits I get when I go to Andrew's Grizzly's barbershop, which is on Market Street. And that is when I go in and I sit down, a beautiful girl comes roaring out from the back office, launches herself into my lap and snuggles up to me. Now, apart from a Jack Daniels, can you have anything more than that?
Oh, it's funny. I was hanging out the bed last night. She's basically glued to me at the moment. It's really weird, actually. But yeah, she's being really affectionate at the moment. I know she started barking at the wall, actually, like in a weird angle at the wall for some reason. And like, is the shop haunted or something? It's so weird. She'd just be like staring and going, yeah. But yeah, she's a good girl, isn't she? She is a good.
Yes,
she went to sleep on your knee, didn't she?
Beautiful, very beautiful. I'm a man blessed.
Oh, yeah, she's a very affectionate dog. We're very lucky. We're very lucky.
Andrew, I know that you like to get away because you do have to open the shop, and you're always worried about the traffic, and quite rightly so. And it's 9 minutes to. Just one last question. In talking to your people in the barber's chair, how much in their conscience is the conflict between Russia and the rest of us, as it were, on the Ukraine border? Are they really aware of it, or is it ho-hum?
No, not at all. Everyone is slightly. It's almost like that thing that they don't want to talk about it because it's almost a tempting fate. It's a really weird thing. It's a really. Everybody goes, it's a bit scary, isn't it? That seems to be the, you sort of mention it, or they mention it, or it comes on the news and they react to it. And it is, isn't it? Because obviously, I'm of the generation of, the threat of the nuclear war, with Russia and stuff. It's hanging over there, and to have a man with no top on walking around on a horse, it's a bit bonkers, isn't it? So it's a real worry. And when you see the footage of it, of all the troops lined up, and you think, oh God. And then there was a woman bringing supplies and stuff to the Ukraine front line, and you just, bandages and things, and you think, oh my God, it's amazing is you want to go, really? This day and age? Really? We're going to kill people and do stuff, and you just go, come on, we're all, whatever those soldiers are experiencing in their life on Russia's side, the ones on the Ukraine are going through the same worries and concerns, aren't they?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's just these boys, they should just get their willies out and measure them and get over it. it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's horrible. So people are worried. It's
Yeah.
like I've always said. What's really interesting is that everyone basically is on the same page all the time. With the public and stuff. What everyone's worried about, concerned about, experiencing. It doesn't matter what economic. Actually, some of them who are economically okay don't actually worry, but things like that they do and stuff, so they can see what's going on, but obviously it affects people in different ways. So it's the reaction is the only thing that changes.
Well, I mean, I take you as a weather vane because you do talk to a wide spectrum of people. I mean, you've got some very, very interesting clients from wide backgrounds and wide experience and indeed a wide range of views. So, what you hear in a day reflects what people are worried about. So I think that the papers in many ways have got it wrong. The front pages shouldn't be Andrew. They shouldn't be the icing on the cake in number 10, not for the moment. Not that they're not unimportant issues, but we should be aware, and awareness should be made of the fact that there is a potential conflict. Off you go and get the Jack Daniels ready. I probably will drop by sometime today to see you.
Lovely, lovely. I've got to have a root canal done today.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm going to be leaving at midday, but it's the third attempt to try and do it now. So I've been on antibiotics. So fingers crossed.
Yes, good luck. Good luck.
All right, Keith. Take care.
Okay.
Nice to speak to you. Take care,
Talk to you
Chuck.
later. Bye, Andrew. There we are. Andrew Sloan, worth a visit. Really worth a visit to his shop, and I recommend it. Right, I'm going to play one more time the thing that's pissing me off at the moment, and then I shall leave you, and because I've got lots of things to do today for a variety of reasons. So here we go. This is what's bothering me.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
There we are. It's now 4 minutes to 9 o'clock. It is going to reach a high of 11 today, which is quite balmy. Grey skies, but only thin cloud and only a slight breeze again. So not a bad day. Slight chance of rain mid-morning, but then the rest of the day, no chance at all. It'll be dry. See you tomorrow. We'll roar. No, I'll see you probably during the day, because now we've decided to adopt a policy that the Americans are, and believe me, the Americans are pretty damn good at television and radio. We're following is by popping up from time to time to let you know what's going on. So I'll probably see you sometime today, but certainly at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. For the moment, toodle pip, and what should I do? I'll go out with yes, a Happy New Year still.